Welcome to the Friends of FEADies Podcast, brought to you by Feed Canada, our funding partner, ISED, and founding partner, the Saskatchewan Food Centre. This show is all about celebrating the incredible journeys of female entrepreneurs in the agri-food and food manufacturing sector. We're here to dish out the secrets of success and serve up a side of inspiration along the way. We are the Feed program where dreams are made, businesses are born, and the agri-food world is your oyster. Let's dine together.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Friends of FEADies Podcast. I'm your host, Lindsay Toth. Today we talk with Laurie Rowe, who is the creator of Jordan Ridge Sauces. Laurie comes from a long line of entrepreneurs, and in this episode we talk about the beginning of her business, lessons learned with vetting manufacturers and co-packers, and the benefits of digital marketing, especially social media. Enjoy. Hi, Laurie. Thank you so much for joining us on the Friends of FEADies podcast. Can you just tell us a little bit about your business and a little bit about yourself so everyone can get to know you a little bit?
I'm Laurie Rowe. I'm the maker and the shaker of Jordan Ridge Sauces, and I'm out of Black Diamond, Alberta. It's a little town just at the base of the foothills of the Rocky Mountains. So beautiful part of the country, and I make a line of sweet, sticky barbecue sauces from farm family recipes.
Amazing. And so I kind of wanted to go way back and just ask you a little bit about kind of what inspired you to become an entrepreneur, or kind of that family history you have that we spoke about a little bit. I think that people would be really interested to hear about that.
Well, I've retired twice or three times now already, and always knew that I would just start my own business. I come from a long line of independent women and a long line of entrepreneurs in my family. Along this line, we have a farm market. We have a guest ranch that does rides. We have a cake decorating business. There's a jerky shop. There's many things, but probably the bottom line is you can do it. You can do anything you want. And being a female, that's not a restriction. It's actually, let's just go and prove everybody what we can do. So the company is named after my grandparents. It was originally Jordan's General Store, which is where I first started to work, I think before I was a teenager anyways, started to work there for my aunt and uncle. What I found is the Jordan's General Store, people were looking for a bricks and mortar store where I was making sauces. The original idea was a bricks and mortar store, but that didn't pan out. It was a good business decision not to go that route. So we rebranded and called it Jordan Ridge Sauces, again, named after my grandparents. And it promotes a good thought in my mind of being back home with my family and my grandparents, where you can do anything you need to do or you want to do.
Yeah, that's so great. Entrepreneurship is in your family, but the actual sauce recipe is from your family as well, correct?
It is. The maple campfire was my grandma's recipe, and I grew up with it on her homemade meatballs. It's made with real maple syrup, so I transferred it into my kitchen and was using it on salmon. It with the real maple syrup, glazes, caramelizes. It just finishes that salmon. But my kids have taken it into their kitchens, and now they're dipping their chicken fingers in it. They're dipping broccoli. It's a generational recipe that has come down through, and it stood the test of time. And it's still made with the original simple ingredients that was in my grandma's kitchen.
That's so great. So I'm curious, was there a moment that kind of like the light went off in your head, where, you have this entrepreneurial spirit, this entrepreneurial family, and it's something you want to do, and you have this delicious sauce recipe, So it seems straightforward, but like there must have been a moment where you actually decided like, oh, wow, this could be something. Is that accurate? Is that how things happened?
It's totally my nephew's fault. I was going to import a barbecue sauce that I'd found way down the States and I liked and thought, okay, I like it. I'll just bring it in and I'll start a clientele here, buy the recipe and make it. And then two things happened. The Canadian dollar soared. So it was like 30% less. And Canada put a 30% importing tax on condiments. So as I'm going, well, that company's not going to work. That idea isn't going to happen. My nephew, who is a chef, he said, but Aunt Laurie, why are you using somebody else's recipes? We've got good sauce recipes in our family. And that was kind of the aha moment. It was like, we do. Why am I looking elsewhere? We show our love in the way we create food and serve it, and it's always just a part of feeling loved when you can come in and raid the cookie jar while you're there. So yes, it's my nephew's fault.
his fault, his inspiration, however you want to put it. Okay, so one of the things that you just kind of mentioned was obviously there's these things you can't anticipate, like these, like how the Canadian dollar is going to do. Lots of things obviously just you can't anticipate. So can we just talk a little bit about some of the challenges you've had since starting the brand and kind of how you've worked with overcoming those?
I think the biggest challenge is way back when I went to college the first time, I took hotel and resort management. And I've worked in restaurants and things like that. So, and of course, with a family background that loves food, it seemed like a natural progression that you would have a good basis. But you don't. When you are creating food and you're taking it from your farmer's market size, where you could potentially make it in your own kitchen and go see if anybody else likes it and if it's a product that you want to continue on with. I chose to bypass that step and go straight to a commercial kitchen. By going into the commercial kitchen, I did a ton of my research and my time up front. The learning curve about nutritional facts tables, about GS1 barcodes and labeling requirements, and even where to go to take your products to be lab tested. I started out with about 8 or 9 sauces that I thought, might be potential. I went and did the lab testing first so that I knew I was offering a product that was shelf stable, that I could move forward with. If it didn't pass the pH tests, then it was wiped off. And after that, then I started going to friends of ours. It was, okay, you've got 3 adult children. Can they bring their spouses or their boyfriend, girlfriend, and I'll just do a taste test. And so they're all filling out their little charts, which one they like and things like this. One of the challenges is the lack of direction, I guess, that's available to an entrepreneur that's doing their due diligence. It's not that you can go there and say, the requirement for your label is you need your logo on your front, you need nutritional facts label here, and you need your ingredients here. And good luck. It's a 48-page document that you've spent 3/4 of an hour trying to find on the Canadian government documents website. And by the time you get there, you're frustrated. It would be the challenge of finding the correct information that was accurate and updated. Just going along with that label, because I was definitely like 100 hours of my life I'll never get back. But out of the labels, where the labeling has changed. It used to be that how much sodium? Well, I have 1% sodium. Now it has to say on there 5% sodium is a lot, 3% sodium is less. There's different regulations that are changing. And staying on top of that is definitely a big challenge for a female rural entrepreneur.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you get into some of these little bit bigger businesses, you have one person whose job is just compliance and keeping on top of all these things, but you're the person, you're wearing all the hats. So I'm just going to kind of pivot it to a little bit more of a just kind of promote feed sort of direction here for a second, because you've worked with us in the past, and you were kind of mentioning some of like the benefits you've seen through that. So do you mind kind of telling people a little bit about your experience working with feed?
I was so fortunate to be part of a cohort 5 with the feed program, and it's the female entrepreneurs in agribusiness development out of the food center in Saskatchewan. And what it did is it fine-tuned my elevator pitch. I mean, I can talk the hind leg off of most people, but was I making the best use of that first 15 or 20 seconds? And I wasn't. It gave me the confidence to believe in my sauces. I've always referred to them as my little sauces. And yet being able to say your elevator pitch and have somebody give feedback that you respect their opinion. You can get 100 different opinions, but unless they've done it, unless they've been there, unless they've been successful at it, why are you listening to them? So feed gave me a dedicated time to ask questions. It was a safe environment. Nobody was going to shoot on your opinions and say, you should have done this. They went, wow, okay. My motto has been tuck and roll for a long time, because you go into one direction and you go, oh, okay, maybe that's not such a great thing. Let's just tuck and roll and we'll go to a different direction. But you always learn from it. Being able to be in touch with people in the industry, the food industry, that know what they're talking about. They can give you guidance. They're not just saying, well, you could do this, you could do that. They're able to say, well, if you take this path, you're going to have 33% of your target audience. If you take this path, you're going to have 28% of your target audience. But are you sure that's your target audience? Because what I'm hearing you say is this. And it's like, whoa, okay. They cut through the chaff. They allow you to come to the conclusions on your own, because you've got people you trust that you can ask questions. It's huge. It's in a entrepreneur. I will go as far as to say it's life-changing.
Wow.
And the reason it's life-changing is that it gives you the confidence to take those little sauces and just soar with them.
Yeah. So I've been with Feed for just over 3 months now, so I'm definitely the newest member of the team. And yeah, so you did the awesome accelerator cohort 5, and I've seen the pitch videos and stuff, and it was great. But yeah, I just wanted to say, like, you do hear about entrepreneurship feeling quite lonely, and the fact that even if we can help a little bit, just be a little bit of extra kind of bit of your team, be a little bit of an extra cheerleader, kind of tap into the experience of each individual member of the team. It's very fulfilling to be able to just kind of, do our best to help everyone, and then also be able to watch and see the crazy growth and success of some of our accelerator participants and how much they've grown their businesses just in the short time since they've taken taking the accelerator. It's very cool to see.
The sense of camaraderie that you get with that cohort, because we were all in different timelines on our journey. And some people were just starting, they had an idea and were going from there. Other people were partway through, some were already in, 100 retail stores, and some already had an accountant on their staff. So it was really cool to be able to see and speak entirely candid that, what, I did this and I really messed up. I wish I had done this. And it wasn't that you were admitting failure, you were sharing a bump in your journey. And if it prevented anybody else in that cohort from doing that same error, then you're accomplished. You've just accomplished a ton of things right there. Because I won't say it's lonely, but you do question all the time. Is this the right decision? Am I doing this in the right order? Because you might have 4 priority items. Which one am I going to do first? And being able to even talk finances. I've been sent a thing from my bank saying I'm approved for a credit line. I'm not sure if I really want to take on debt. And when you ask that question, because you have financial people there, and when you say, I don't know whether I want to take on this debt, and they cut right through it and they say, what would you do? If you had that credit line, what would it allow you to do? And my answer was like, oh, I could do this, this, and this. I could order everything at once so that I would know totally how much my cost is going to be for a product. And they just said, you've answered your own question. This is a risk that you could be willing to take because you can see the benefit on how that is going to help your company. It takes so much stress of indecisions or really questioning if it's the right path, and being able to throw these questions out and get accurate mentor feedback is pretty amazing.
Yeah, well, and honestly, as simple as it sounds, like sometimes just getting these things out of your head and instead of spiraling about them and going over and over it and just verbalizing it to someone else, they know, and you know the answer. It's just, getting it out there and then just hearing it and kind of processing it that way. It's a little thing, but I found with many things in life, it's so helpful. So again, pivoting a little bit here, but I wanted to ask a little bit, we kind of got touched on it, but you've gotten to the point in your business where you're not just cooking in a kitchen, you're actually moved into the phase of co-packing. Is that correct?
That is correct. And that happened within the first year of my business.
Wow.
I started doing Farmer's Day Market, having people try my sauces and see if they liked them in my little jars that I'd done at the local commercial kitchen at the Legion. And I had a lady call me in January after the Christmas markets and said, oh, I'm just wondering, do you do custom labels? And I had no idea what was involved in doing a custom label. So I went, sure, I can do that. What do you have in mind? And it was a case of going, why not? Rather than, or how can I do this? It's like, why not? Let's just, yeah, sure, we can do this. It turned out, Lindsay, that this was a lady that there was 4 huge big office buildings downtown. And what they wanted to do was give my sauce as their Stampede giveaway to all of their tenants in these 4 big buildings.
Oh, wow.
So they were looking at 10,900 bottles. I got out a calculator because my brain was hurting at that point, and it would have taken me like 45 full-time kitchen days to make this. And they needed it like in 2.5 months or something. So I didn't physically have enough time because I was still working full time at that point. Didn't have the time. So I started doing the research as to where could I get a co-packer. I started in Alberta. I started checking everybody. I did my Google searches. I phoned somebody that I thought might have been a co-packer, and co-packers are actually quite difficult to find. A lot of co-packers in Alberta, they have a facility and they're using it for their own product. So they only use it 2 or 3 days a week. And so what they want to do is rent out the other 2 days. But what I found is when I needed that kitchen time, that steam kettle time, is when they were busy and trying to ramp up as well. And so I wasn't able to get my product in at convenient times. So I ended up finding a 3rd generation co-packer. We talked on the phone 3 or 4 times, so probably 3 hours altogether. I did as much research as I could on him, and he did some research on what my recipes were. We did an NDA, and I'm still with him. I've met him once since 2017. 2018. I've met him once, and in 2 weeks, I'm going out to meet him again and tour his facility for the very first time. This is not the path you're supposed to take when you're looking for a co-packer. Not at all. It just, it happened. I had a need, and he came into my path, and it has been a wonderful, wonderful partnership. So yes, I have, when I'm doing smaller batches, I'm still at the Turner Valley Legion in their commercial kitchen, and I can do, with 2 helpers, I can do 25 dozen in a day, start to finish. We're bagged by the end of the day. It's in 4-gallon pots. It is a lot of mixing and heating and hand bottling and hand labeling, where with my co-packer, I order them in 100-case pallets now, which is a really, it's a nice number of pallets, a nice number of cases to have at a time, and it remains fresh because that gives you lots of time to sell it.
Yeah, that's great. So you did land on someone local in Alberta there, is that correct?
He's southern BC.
Oh,
he's
okay,
in Richmond.
BC. Okay, yeah.
And,
okay.
And so because I do my smaller stuff here, like all of my Christmas market things, he does my big 3, which are ones that when I need bigger amounts, he's the one. So at the start of summer, before Christmas, and I'm just upscaling now. I had upscaled a bit before, but I'm on a much solider path. But that's one of the challenges that we went through as a company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you kind of just like talked us through your process. So I think that's helpful for people. Do you have any other advice that you might want to share for someone who might be in that place where they're like just considering getting into co-packing, or they're looking into it, like anything that they could take away from your experience with that?
Do your due diligence and listen to what you feel. I looked at other co-packers, and we just didn't get the same attention to detail. My sauces are made without gluten, so they're gluten friendly, which means the Worcestershire has to have no gluten in it. Like that's a hard and fast rule. And when I check with other co-packers, and they say, oh, well, sure, we just use, we have Worcestershire that we use for another one. We'll just use it for this. No, I need confirmation. This is what it is. A lot of the times it was the attention to detail, whether they're making a drink mix or whether they're making a salad dressing. They have their own standards in place as well, and they're pretty familiar with it. and being able to pivot. And I'm not talking the food centers at all. These are the smaller co-packers, the entrepreneur, smaller business co-packers. And it's the attention to detail that there was just some that weren't there. I had a very bad experience with a local co-packer that he was just trying to utilize and make the most of his shop, which I hear. I had sent 2 distinct recipes for my Christmas market. And I found out later when I said, okay, can you send me back the recipes that you've made, because he would have upsized them, right? I do like I'm cups and liters and things like this. And a co-packer, they use it in kilograms and weights. And that's the other thing, that one big piece of advice is I also went through to the food scientist to make sure, because I'd gone from a 1 cup recipe to a 2 cup to 4 cups to 4 gallons, but I hadn't gone to 350 kilograms. And so I knew it was shelf-stable because I'd already done my lab testing, but I didn't know that I could take my 4-gallon pot and make it safely into 350 kilograms. People in the kitchen know that just because you use a 1/4 teaspoon of salt in a 1-gallon pot, if you go to a 4-gallon, you're not using a teaspoon and a half, because that would make it far too salty. So they all have to be proportionate. And by going into the weights, it's a standardized quantity as well. And so going back to this bit of a wonky thing, this co-packer decided, he looked at the 2 recipes and chose on his own without telling me that he felt they were close enough of a base that he just made a big batch of the one and took half of it and added maple to it, and then left the other half. So there were ingredients that were in one that were not on the labels. There were ingredients in the other, but I didn't know this until after it'd been delivered. I'd sold them at Christmas markets. And then it comes out when I said, okay, I'll, take back all the documentation because we won't be working together anymore. And he had renamed my Smoky Prairie Smoke. And I said, that's interesting. Where did you come up with that? Oh, well, it was so close to your maple campfire that we just used the prairie smoke as your base and added maple to it. That's a huge no-no. So listen, if you feel that the attention to detail isn't there, then look further. Just look further and find the one that fits in that is with the rigorous guidelines that you want and you demand for your company. It comes back on me. And I didn't find this out till a couple of months later, and I was absolutely horrified.
Yeah. I mean, anyone who's worked kind of in the food industry at all, that like the labeling standards are there for a reason, and it is very important that what is on that label is what is in that jar. So I can definitely understand why that would be cause for concern for sure. But yeah, yes. It's I think it's a good example of kind of just like trust yourself and trust your gut. Taking a step back too, though, you kind of mentioned for co-packers, you were looking local. You ended up in BC with a co-packer. But I know talking to you in the past, you mentioned it's not just co-packing, it's everything that you do. You prioritize to make sure it's Canadian. And ingredients, all of that. Can you tell us a little bit about that, or talk about that a little bit?
My stepdad was a Juno Beach veteran, and he was a very, very proud Canadian. And I have a maple leaf on every jar. And so that's kind of his part in the company. But if we want people to buy local. If we want Canada to succeed, we need to support Canada. And absolutely, I could order a truckload of bottles from China. And I chose not to. I chose to go. The place that I found was in Montreal. Of course, they're more because they're Canadian. But so I do the labels. My graphic design and my label lady is in Okotoks. I use the Turner Valley Legion as my commercial kitchen because it's paying it forward as well. If you continue to do everything as local as you can, the side benefits come out of the woodwork. And an example of that, because I had everything onshore, not offshore, when there were supply issues, when all those sea cans were floating around in the Pacific Ocean, my jars were traveling from the States up into Montreal and shipping to me. So I never had a supply issue. I didn't run out of bottles or lids or shrink bands. None of that, because I chose to stay local. I've also had my bottle lady when I ended up having to do a pallet or two of bottles, and then I needed like an extra 20 cases. And that would have been an extra, so many cents on, because it was a smaller order. And she just said, nope, you buy from us. We're just going to put those on the top of the pallet and they'll all be at the pallet price. So because they know you, they can see you. You're not just an email address. You talk to them on the phone, and it's that personal relationships that you want to convey your brand. And that's what your brand stands for, is family and good food and simple times and neighborly connections. So everything we do Canadian is supporting local, and it's pay it forward. We donate to the food banks. We donate to the Veterans Association Food Bank. We donate to some churches up near Sundre that have families that will come in. And it's just what you do as a good neighbor, I guess is how I'd put it, Lindsay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess that's the holistic thing about a brand, right? It's a representation of you and your business. And so those decisions feed back into your brand, even if it's not in the way people think of advertising your brand. It's kind of that essence piece of it.
It is. And it's to me, it's always out front. But I've also treated this as a business. It's not a hobby. It's not my side hustle. It is what I chose to do, and I knew what my path was. So we treat it like a business. We have a business meeting at the end of the year. We look at things every couple of months. We know where we are with our targets. And by giving that little bit of a distance, by treating it like a business, you're not inclined to go, oh, right, I used the wrong debit card. I bought milk on the company debit instead of my personal debit. Oh, well, no big deal. No, those are separate things. And by keeping it a business, because you want this business to grow. You want it to grow, and you want it to get out there, and you want it to be something that your family's going to be proud of, not just, it's good and other people, you hope they like your little sauces. It's something that you're doing because you've got your family and you've got your roots behind you. So one of our bylines is, it's a solid tradition, and it is. You be a good neighbor, and you use good ingredients, and you serve good food to people, and sweet sticky barbecue sauces are right up high there on my list.
Yeah, absolutely. And that growth piece that you're just kind of talking about here, I just want to kind of get a little bit into kind of that marketing side of things. That's obviously kind of my area, so I'm always very interested in that. You were telling me in the past a little bit about kind of putting more effort into marketing and social media and digital, and how that was kind of new for you. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Digital marketing is a big learning curve. I didn't give it the value that it deserves. On the social media, I applied for a grant and I was awarded the CDAP grant. So it's a Canadian Digital Adoption Program for entrepreneurs. And so I was able to get grant money to dedicate to updating my social media platform, updating my online store, updating and coordinating shipping options on that online store so that it's a lot more user friendly and it didn't have to make my head hurt, because I'm the maker and the shaker, which means I'm in the kitchen stirring and making and out there greeting people and giving samples. And I found that the computer was taking up a ton of my time because I wasn't doing it efficiently. So by outsourcing that, with this digital adoption program, I was able to hire an influencer. I was able to hire a local girl that a photographer in her own right, and she did amazing. She was also doing very well on social media herself, so she knew what we needed. And then my social media person who pulled it all together and said, "This is what I need for posts. These are the best times to post. This is when you're going to get the best coverage." And we put that all together in a heck of a hurry and had so many laughs. We used the influencer was Terry Grant, Man Tracker. So I was able to convince him to come and, had to twist his arm just a little bit, but he was able to come and be the face for the ambassador for my sauces. And we continued from there. We're just started a second social media campaign to, again, pull everything together. And being able to have somebody guide me in that know it's their expertise. If she wants advice in the kitchen, I can give her that advice, but she's the one that does the social media and does it so quickly. She's also the one that said, whatever you do with social media, it has to be brand intentional. And I've really tried to keep that in a forefront. It has to go along with your values. It has to go along with your target market, with what you want your brand to say as it was going out there. And before that, I was just posting random stuff and hoping I, mentioned Jordan Rich sauces somewhere in it and it tied together maybe. But being brand intentional has been huge.
As I mentioned, background is definitely in marketing, specifically on that digital side. And I've just got to say, for any business that's a little bit smaller, maybe a little bit tighter on the budget, social media and digital marketing, you can actually, if everything's set up properly, track where that money is going and see the direct result of it. Whereas a lot more of these traditional means, you put in a magazine ad and people will see it, but you have no real good way to track and actually see the return on that money spent. Whereas digital does give you that opportunity. So I commend you for taking the initiative to kind of move forward with that. And I think that it's big for any business.
It is
in 2024, right?
It's bigger than you realize. It's a huge part. Like, you can make all the sauces you want and you can put them into 100 stores. But if people don't have a reason, if they don't have that other trigger, it's like a comment that if you want something done, you need to mention it 3 times. Like, oh, the tap is dripping in the kitchen. And then it would be, oh, that sure would be nice to switch out the washers in that kitchen tap. It's starting to drip. And then the 3rd time it would be, how do we fix this tap? Like, is it just washers? Because it's starting to annoy me. And then all of a sudden, the kitchen sink fairy comes and changes those washers. And by recognizing that social media is, it's at least as important as making it and getting it out there available for people to buy it. And I had not given it that, I hadn't given it the due that it needed, but it's definitely one of the big players in my budget right now.
Yeah, yes. Social media, it's very important, and it's a great way to share news. It's a great way to do a lot of things for your business. And speaking of news, you have a little bit of news that you want to share with us on the podcast.
I do. I've got three little pieces actually. So my big three is what I call them, and I have a sweet barbecue, a sweet jalapeno, and a maple campfire. I submitted the sweet jalapeno into a Spicy Flav Awards in the fall, and it was awarded second place in the medium barbecue sauce. So it's placed in an international barbecue sauce competition. So that was great. They sent me this ribbon, like a huge big ribbon. It was so good. I just keep looking at it and going, "Oh, I did that."
Amazing.
The other thing is I took a kind of a leap, and my staff and I set up a booth at a food and beverage expo. And it just happened, we were serving our Caesar mocktails. So you take the whole thing about a farm family recipe is you don't just use one thing for one item. You don't have one bottle for one thing. You use it for a ton of stuff. And my sweet jalapeno makes a really good Caesar cocktail mix. So you just put your ice, pour in a tablespoon of sweet jalapeno, put in some clamato juice and a straw. And I was serving this at a food and beverage expo where you could get your glass of wine or your craft beer or all these cool things. And it was voted Consumer Choice Award for Best Caesar. Out of all of these other ones, and we were serving mocktails. So that was really cool. Those little sauces were going places. And now the biggest news, my big three is my line of the sweet sticky sauces. On the other side, I have just partnered with a company. It's a health food distribution company, and we are bringing back my guilt-free jalapeno barbecue, which is a vegan barbecue sauce, and my high-class low-carb barbecue sauce, which is diabetic friendly and a vegetarian barbecue sauce. They're made without gluten. They have great taste. They were hard as heck to make. And we are relaunching them. I had chose about a year ago not to continue making them because it wasn't in the right stream. It wasn't getting out to the right target market. And so I chose to do the less is more and just do my big three. And it just happened. I was at a market and this man came up and kept looking and looking and looking. And I gave him a card and, "Do you want to taste?" Nope, I'm okay. And he went away. And a month later, I get a phone call that they would like more information on my diabetic friendly, health conscious barbecue sauces. So we are launching that as a new brand for them at the Canadian Health Food Expo, CHFA, Canadian Health Food Association, at the WOW Expo in Vancouver the first week of April.
Wow.
So that's really cool. It's in the right avenue. It's in the right target market. And so we've got another social media campaign coming up in another 2 weeks to help promote that one. Very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. That's all very exciting. And I've got to say, just on a personal note here, now when this episode is coming out, Table Talk and AWC will be done. But you had told me that you will be putting together some of those Caesar mocktails for the Table Talk conference, or well, I guess AWC, but AWC and Table Talk kind of coming together, 2 conferences, and I'm very excited to try your Caesars. So I'm very much looking forward to that.
Yes, I love talking about my sauces, and I love people being able to try them and know that the flavor is what is going to bring people back. It's at a good price point right now, and the flavor is going to take you back to that simple time when you're back at your grandma and your grandpa's place, and they're saying, here, let's get you a sandwich for lunch, and would you like some of my barbecue sauce to go on it?
I love that. That's so great. So just as we're wrapping up here, I want to do, if you don't mind, a little just rapid fire quick back and forth, just some fun little get to know you questions just right at the end here.
Sure.
Awesome. Okay. So what is your favorite season?
My favorite season is spring. Spring because all of that flowers are coming up, and you get the first daffodil and the first crocus, and you're going, yes, it's happening again.
Amazing. What is your favorite color?
Blue.
Blue. Nice. And your favorite food?
Oh, my favorite food, I'm going to start with angel food cake. But I love pasta in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, pasta.
Nice. Do you have a favorite hobby?
I love reading, and I love reading paper books. I tried doing a Kindle and a digital, and you spend so much time on your computer conveying with people and checking your phone or contact. Being a paper reader is something that just takes me back to going to my own little world, and make a little nest in your chair. So reading is something I love doing, and I also love camping up in the Rocky Mountains. My family and I have camped for a long time up there.
Oh, amazing. Those two go together well. What's the last really good book you read?
It's called The Lone Survivor, and it is about a SEAL team company that goes into Afghanistan. And out of the 4, 3 of them die, and the last one is that is injured, but he is taken in by the Afghan people and protected from the Taliban until he can get word to the US that he is still alive, and they can bring in people to save him. The Lone Survivor is it's a memorable book because it teaches you about being the best you can be. And when even though you're the best you can be, you still need some help from your neighbors to get you back on track and get you home again. It's a good book.
Yeah. You've got me sold. I feel like now I need to go check it out. It sounds amazing. All right. So that was our quick little speed round. So yeah, just as we're wrapping up here, for anyone listening and they want to learn more about Jordan Ridge sauces online or in general, kind of what is the best way to find you or best points of contact for people?
Just Google Jordan Ridge sauces. The website's jordanridgesauces.ca. Instagram is at Jordan Ridge Sauces. And don't forget, we got Man Tracker coming back to do some more little Instagram posts in the middle in the next couple of weeks. And do you know what? Ask at your local grocery store, and we might actually be in there. And if not, ask them, and maybe we'll get in there. So it's all tuck and roll, right, Lindsay? It is do what you can.
Absolutely.
Have fun doing it.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Amazing. Thank you so much for your time, Laurie, today. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you to our listeners for indulging your entrepreneurial appetite with this episode of Friends of FEADies, brought to you by Feed Canada, our funding partner ISET, and founding partner, the Saskatchewan Food Centre. If anything we have discussed today has ignited an entrepreneurial fire within you, but you're not quite sure how to get started, or you're craving mentorship and coaching to help grow your business, please reach out to us at fead.ca. That's FEAD.ca. Connect with us on social media. We're sprinkled all over the digital landscape, and our team is ready to provide the mentorship and coaching you need to flourish. At Feed, we're here to empower women in the agri-food industry, so don't hesitate to reach out to us to join our vibrant community of foodpreneurs. Until next time, bake those dreams into reality, stay hungry for success, and continue to nourish your entrepreneurial spirit with Feed. Bon appetit.